for 208, Season 14, Episode 4. Chris Mayville, welcome back.
Thank you. So kind of you to invite me back on the show. Pleased to be here.
Well, you're always good with the deep intellectual discussions, and you've been helping the show for so dang long, I can't even... It's been, 8, 9, 10 years or something like that?
Yeah, probably. It's been a while now.
I can't even remember when you started helping. It's been since all of the shows since video, so probably 8 years.
Yeah.
So.
There's been a variety of stuff, but it's been great, and I've been following your career for a while, even before that. So, the Trivium saved my life. So I owe that to you, and it set me on the right course. So.
How did the Trivium You're welcome. How did the Trivium save your life?
Well, honestly, for the longest time, I've been having a very difficult time either articulating what I felt or had a difficult time, expressing myself, or just being able to find an argument. When I fell into a lot of the same.
You know what? Hold on a second. I just realized I don't have my headphones in, and the audience probably isn't getting your audio.
Oh.
Jeez. I felt something was wrong. Sorry, folks.
Are you getting my audio?
I'm getting your audio, but I got to put these on and feed it into the system so that they can get your audio. Isn't that brilliant? It's a good thing I realized it before we were 2 minutes in. Did you just freeze up on me? There you are.
Yeah. Okay.
Here, hold on. Geez. Sorry, folks. That's what you call a dum-dum move. Say something, Chris.
Hey, are you there?
There we go. Now the audience can hear you.
Oh, hey, everybody. This is what I sound like. Yeah.
Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, so now we got the sound fixed, and now we're going.
Awesome.
So
Excellent.
Anyway, we were talking about the Trivium and how it saved your life, and
it did, because I was saying how you were talking about how long I'd been working with you, and even before that, I recall the very first time it was an Alex Jones show. You were on talking about the Trivium, and he was mispronouncing your name over and over and over.
Oh, I think
again.
that was on purpose too.
I do, so I agree. And then you were like, "Okay, Nancy,"
and that's right, great, I did.
I was just like this guy, so I went looking into the Trivium, and it was a godsend for me, because I was able to focus things, and I was able to properly place the information I was getting, because I was falling into, I fell into The Secret and the What the Bleep and all this.
Oh yeah, I remember all that.
You know what
stuff.
I mean?
Oh, I fell into it too back. Geez, that must have been 2006, 2007.
Yeah. So that was, you get lost into that. And that's one thing I'd like to bring up later on too. I'd like to talk to you about the Gnostic heresies, because I feel like it's everywhere. But that was how the Trivium gave me a lot of focus and being able to identify, because I fell prey, like so many people do. We see right now how many people are susceptible and falling prey to logical fallacies and fallacious arguments. Even with this, all do this to keep people safe. There's so many things that are twisted and manipulated and inverted. And if you don't have something to keep you anchored to reality, then you're screwed. You're just going to.
I got into it with this guy who's big into philosophy last week, and his whole argument was all philosophy is about primacy of consciousness, and if it's based on objectivity, it's obviously false, and I don't need to study it. And this guy, he was just making so many fallacious arguments, and I link him to the Trivium. I'm like, you need to study this. And he's all, oh, it has rhetoric, and rhetoric is for only for manipulation, so it's invalid. I'm like, no, the rhetoric is the last step, as in who, what, where, when, then why, then how. Your rhetoric is based on the first two,
Right.
knowledge or general grammar, why or logic or understanding, to come to how you reach the conclusion. And this guy couldn't get it, and it's like Steve Jones and I talked about on the show a couple weeks ago with Kieran. When people are lost in this, they don't have they're without a state of morality. Therefore, and this guy's whole argument was truth doesn't exist. And he had written
I'm certain of it.
right, exactly.
True.
And he had written this ridiculous rap song about your laws of contradiction, and this kind of stuff. But he could not make a non-fallacious sound argument. And I was sitting there baiting him, doing exactly what you just said. I was like, "Are you certain that your statement of truth does not exist, that truth doesn't exist, is true?" And he's like, "I'm not falling for that." And it's like, how do you not even see the contradiction there, right? Because if you can see that I'm baiting you into that, then that exposes that your whole truth doesn't exist, idiot.
You can have no certainty if truth doesn't exist. You can have zero certainty. All you can, and to claim anything is just idiotic at that point.
Right, and that's what they want, and then it goes into primacy of consciousness, and then there's only one philosophy because everything is me.
Can I ask you a question? This is there's a variety of questions I'd love to ping off of you. This one here, like it all really comes down to, from my understanding, comes down to logos versus gnosis, or primacy of consciousness, which is the gnosis, right? And then the primacy of
reality.
Reality, right?
So objectivism or objective reality.
Yeah. So it's good versus evil, really, is how it always boils down to. And it certainly looks like we're knee deep, if not neck deep, into a Gnostic reality. And I know you've done so much work, like with Islam, and Lloyd DeYoung is still doing a bunch of work. He says that it's a Gnostic deen.
He's totally right on that. He's got the Sharia law quotes.
Yeah, so it's Gnostic. Freemasonry is Gnostic.
The whole psychedelic counterculture is Gnostic.
Yes, and even the whole woke thing is got to be because of the androgyny.
Well, it is because there is no. It's moral relativism. There is no right and wrong. You're not a boy. We're not men. It's whatever you make. If you put on a dress right now,
I know.
You're a woman. And it's like you're not a dude in a dress. You're actually a woman, and all of a sudden, all 6,000 of the biological differences between men and women change also just because you put on a dress. Isn't that amazing? But follow the science.
Of course, follow the science. Follow it.
But Chris, I don't think you're being woke right now, and especially not true North woke, right?
No, for being someone from up here, it has gone crazy. I don't know if you're paying attention to what's happening up here.
I pay attention some.
Oh, the Prime Minister, very interesting individual. This is an individual that has been accused of groping a reporter and has been caught in blackface more than once. And he said that people who are unvaxxed or hesitant about getting vaccinated are misogynists and racists, and they're not following the science.
Yeah.
So
right.
The very person who is a misogynist and a racist is going around saying that other,
Well, he was accused of treason by some woman when he was given a speech, and she stood right in front of him and accused him of treason, and she said, "We used to hang people like you."
Yeah. The boldness that these people are operating within. Quebec right now is gone just I think it's even gone worse than Australia. It's really brutal. They've imposed all kinds of
I've been watching the videos of them, like solid curfews, locking people up,
yeah,
fining them thousands of dollars if they're outside, and
crazy, nuts. And not only that, they have a show with these children on there. I don't know if you saw that clip, and they're asking them if they were vaccinated. For one, these are small children, and then they asked them what they should do with the unvaccinated, and they said they should be locked up.
oh yeah.
So,
Well, I've
applaud.
seen news articles saying that they should create internment camps
Well, that's the thing,
for
you know.
the unvaccinated.
So Canada is right behind, as we all know. It always seems to kind of follow lockstep from Australia, and I think it goes back because the former Prime Minister Stephen Harper once gave a speech, and it was verbatim days after the then Prime Minister of Australia gave. It was the same speech. So this is a very odd thing, and watching this whole process take place over the last decade or so, it's been surreal beyond belief. And I promise the viewers I will refrain from using the word shocking tonight because I overused it last time, but I was shocked. So hey, I've acclimated to the craziness, I think, a little bit better. But yeah, it's nuts. Canada is it's getting scarier, and truckers are right now, they're doing a slow crawl all the way to Ottawa. They were here through our town on Sunday, I think. So
does that mean driving through the whole country going 5 miles an hour to make sure deliveries take forever?
Yeah, but there's like they're being mandated to get the vax, or they can't, drive. So they're protesting that. It's ridiculous.
Well, and I saw an article the other day. The truckers coming up from the States are refusing to go in because they're demanding our truckers going up there be vaccinated.
Yeah,
and so 2 weeks ago at a local hospital here, 89 nurses were out sick with COVID. 4 were unvaccinated. And then there was an article that broke from Scotland yesterday that double the number of the vaccinated are getting COVID or serious enough illness or death to be hospitalized. But, we're going to get this show flagged for even talking about this stuff.
Yeah,
we
I don't want to get her flagged, yeah, absolutely. But yes, it's crazy times. And so as someone who's worked this whole time, I know in the workforce and point of contact, it's I think coveralls is the cure to it, because I wear coveralls every day at work, and I've been there for 2 years working this job, and that just wards it off. So coveralls, folks, if you want to get over, if you want to get through this CVID, horde. But getting back to the idiocy, the wokeness of this, Jan, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is it possible for an individual to be a feminist, pro-LGBTQ, and then pro-Islam all at the same time? Is that possible?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Logically, no, but that is your standard woke leftism, because they view Islam as victims. And, none of these people who believe this stuff have ever sat down and read the Quran, the Hadiths, the Tasfir, the Sharia laws, and they would realize quickly that Islam is required to either subjugate or,
right, humiliate, or
worse, decapitate the kafir or the non-believers.
Right.
And but and as a religion, it manipulates that group to all ends. But the irony of that is that when they gain control of an area, those people who supported them will be the first to go.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just to see this, to see people promote this whole thing. And then the idea of Islamophobia, to me, is another one of those things where it's an oxymoron, because
anybody who's studied it has to be.
Yeah. You'd think, right? You would think,
It's like, you're an Islamophobe. It's like, here, let me give you some quotes.
Yeah.
Let me read you right out of their text.
It's weird. Just taking people at their word is now a bad thing. So, yeah, it's crazy times. It's getting crazier and crazier. And I don't know. I think the states might be on the turn back towards with the hopefully with the midterms, and people seem to be not. There's states that are just not going along with this, and they seem to be doing okay.
Yeah,
So,
well, Florida and DeSantis are, he's really leading the charge. But what
yeah,
is the fake news media have to attack him? Oh, he's a Trumper. That's
sure,
their appeal to ridicule ad
yeah,
hominem. You know.
oh yeah, and I think that the credibility of the mainstream is just it's at its all time low. I don't know if it can get any lower than it is right now. Who
I'm
takes them at their word?
flabbergasted anytime someone tells me that they, did something because of the news or whatever, and it's like, just turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to watch because you're seeing the mechanism at work. You can actually see it's like watching the Matrix. You can the cadence, how they speak to you, and how they present the information, poisoning the well when they talk about things like if they will bring. I know your favorite person, Joe Rogan, had recently. He's been getting all these people calling for him. What was it? Neil Young recently said, Spotify, it's me or you, or me or Rogan, which to me it's hilarious. But it
Well,
watching,
and Rogan is not exactly. I mean, he is the fake news now.
yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, I give it to him that he does long format. He lets people talk. He gives them a
Oh
lot
well,
of.
did you see my interview on his show?
No, I
Did
mean,
he
I
let me
understand,
talk?
yes, but that's a caveat. But also, Jan, I mean, if I recall correctly, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have the prestigious honor of getting him to drink his own urine. So I think you recommended to him that he
he he
called you one
he
time.
he was really sick, and he actually did it. And he calls
Yeah,
me back like an hour later, and he's like, "Holy shit, dude! I feel totally better."
I mean, some sway, and I think he also said that you were an expert in a later show, so he
Yeah,
gave you
but
props. But
he, I mean, dude,
no,
he
you were
had my channel
assassinated.
shut down 3 times,
Yeah,
and
you were character assassinated, unfortunately, and
yeah,
the line.
he wrote a hit piece against me years ago too, just spinning everything. In 2009, early 2009, he and I had a conversation on the phone one day, and I had told him that I had launched my podcast, and he's sitting there going, "Really, really, really? Well, man, I'm going to have to try that." And then so he launched the JRE, and a couple years later, he denied that the conversation ever happened, and he pretended that it was all because of his news radio TV show or sitcom back in the day. And
Yeah, well,
he denies the whole dang thing.
he's getting mucho views now, though, and at least there's a conversation. I mean, if anything, the whole Sanjay Gupta one was a beautiful moment. Getting him to right on the spot and have to say those things, and then having him crawl back to CNN later and say that he was afraid Rogan was going to attack him. I mean, that's classic. That was a wonderful moment because CNN. I mean, they just can't help but shoot themselves in the foot these days. It's almost glorious to watch. I don't know if you're enjoying it, but boy, man.
Here, let me just, we're talking about, the trivium and studying things
Yes.
before we form opinions.
Yes.
So this guy, Joe, in the chat, Jan, I know you're a Christian, and I can't get past Christianity forcing itself upon Europe and killing my ancestors. I also can't get around the fact that Christianity is basically a Jewish sect. So see how he couples that together. Never mind that it's based on logos, and we've done all of this stuff, explaining what
There's
logos
no
is,
mysteries.
and that it's based on truth is God.
Yeah.
And he gets caught up in the whole false narrative about Christianity forcing itself upon Europe and killing his ancestors. Really, if it killed his ancestors, Joe, how are you alive?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Good point.
but it's like, these people that come up with this stuff, they don't sit down and actually read the Bible, and especially the New Testament, for themselves. They believe all of this malarkey that comes at them from every TV show you ever watch sells a false narrative.
Sure.
Everybody sells a false
It's not a
narrative about
document.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's a difficult book, honestly. I can get that. It's a difficult book to tackle, right? Like, it's hard for an average person in 2022 to crack open the Bible and try to give it, like, unless you have at least some, like, desire to kind of want to know. If you just want to disprove it, I mean, you can, and you'll get bored fast, because
I always recommend people start with the New Testament and then go back to
I agree.
Because the New Testament is quick paced, and by the time you're to Acts, your mind is split wide open.
Yeah.
It's like, truth is God, logos. And the New Testament repeats it like 240 some times, that truth is God, and it's like, you get it yet? You get it yet? You get it yet? You get it yet? Hey, you get it yet?
And there's and they also tell you don't need anything else. Like with like the Quran, they'll tell you, well, you can't understand it unless you have read the Hadiths and the Sirah, and they keep you away from, like, the reliance of the traveler. They don't want you talking about the Sharia. But with the Bible, there's no other book. I mean, you can get the concordance, you can go off and you can find. I mean, I've got Vine's, biblical dictionary or whatever, but there's no other books that you require to read. Like, the information is there. You just need to be able to absorb it and read it. And don't look at it as being archaic, because it's so applicable to today. It's so applicable to what's going on. I'm sure it is like that all the time. I'm sure there's not a time in history where it wasn't applicable to what was going on, at least within certain people's lives.
Well, and going back to this guy Joe's statement, never mind that there were nearly or may possibly over 500 invasions into Europe by Islam, where they massacred millions of people, took millions more slaves. Yeah. King Jan of Poland united the armies of Europe and drove the Muslims back into the Middle East. Christians did 12 crusades that stopped over 500 invasions. But what do you ever hear? You only hear about these 12, crusades, and how the Muslims were poor victims. You don't hear about the 500 invasions and the slaves and all of that stuff.
Spanish Inquisition. It's like, okay, well, it's obligatory to lie. So, I mean, in that cult, or whatever you want to call it, and in getting back to the woke thing, where here's another question I have for you, because, like, I don't know if you're familiar with James Lindsay, New Discourses.
Somebody's mentioned him to me recently. It sounds familiar.
He's been doing a lot of work on critical theories and really breaking them down, going through papers by Marcuse and Horkheimer and Adorno, and showing you the roots of all the idiocy, and breaking it right back down to Hegel, saying kind of like that's roughly around the start of a lot of this stuff, the dialectic, and then moving on to the Marxist dialectic, which is like the dialectic of materialism or whatever it is. So Hegel, it's my understanding that he held the laws of logic in contempt, and he didn't have much use for them. And I'm wondering, like, because the dialectic of abstract, negative, concrete, or thesis, antithesis, synthesis, doesn't that violate the law of the excluded middle? If it's thesis, antithesis, synthesis,
wouldn't that be the middle?
Yeah, exactly. What would violate that, right? Because it's the excluded middle, so it shouldn't be something in the middle. It should be either one or the other. That's my understanding, or that's a curiosity.
Thesis, antithesis, synthesis.
Just curious, it just popped into my head. It's one of those things. I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
You're going over my head right
now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I have we ever done a show? I've never done a show specifically on Jordan Peterson, have I?
No.
Somebody's asking in the chat there. We've talked about him a lot. He did take over Tim Leary's position at Harvard at one point. Leary was obviously CIA. As somebody pointed out, he was on Joe Rogan recently promoting psychedelics again. You
Really,
know,
eh?
he recently interviewed Professor Carl Ruck and some other guy. I've written extensively exposing that. So here's the thing, right? So this guy Joe, he's going off again. I read it. I was in Catholic school for 12 years. They always refer back to when they were a young child
Yeah,
when they read it and their knowledge of what it says,
I read it.
not reading it as an adult. That's one of the most
Yeah,
common arguments I hear. It's like, I read it when I was 7, so therefore I know. No, dude, sit down and read it as an adult and
yeah, I
and
can attest.
he's well, I was there too. I wrote books against Christianity. And he's not even understanding that because he's so caught up in, they killed my ancestors and whatnot, which they didn't, and so much of that is anti-Christian propaganda. I have a book around here. I, I don't know. Everything's a wreck. I'll have to find it, but it talks about all of the fake accusations against the church. But yeah, you've gotta read it. Oh, so now he says he read it 5 years ago. Well, sit down and read it as an adult, Joe, and look at it understanding that logos, that the word is reason, where we get the word logic
Yeah,
from. Logic
divine reason.
logic is the art of non-contradictory identification or truth. And so when you say you're anti-Christian, you're literally anti-truth.
Anti.
And so you're falling into this false narrative. But anyway, I'm done entertaining you, Joe. Thanks for your
Well,
statements and detracting from the conversation here, but we'll go on.
so continue along with the Christian thing. This is
Earl
another
Lee says 23 and he's got it all figured out. Sorry, go ahead.
awesome. That's good, man. I read the Bible, like the New Testament, when I was. I don't know if I read the whole thing, but we were given them. And well, I went to a Catholic grade school and to a Catholic high school for a year, and so I was exposed to the same thing, but it wasn't remotely the same thing as trying to dig into it in the last like 6 or 7 years when I started. And it took me a while to get through the whole thing,
Yeah.
So it's not something you just sit down. I mean,
Well,
that
get the
possibly just
trivium and then sit down and read it, and then you realize the trivium is also the Holy Trinity, and that brings a whole other.
bingo.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. So with Christianity and with being a Christian and someone who you have an allegiance to the truth. That's my understanding. So you are adhering to reality and to the truth, and which is in stark opposition to the woke, in stark opposition, and to such a great degree, because if you don't use the proper pronouns, if you don't identify this clear male, a physical man, and say that this is a female or a dolphin or whatever you want to call it, then you are a criminal at that point. So you're being the choice of like, do I adhere to reality? Like, this is, to me, it seems like this is why Christians are always persecuted throughout history, is because they can't go along with the BS lies. They can't like look, okay, I get it, but the emperor has no clothes, and I can't go along with this.
Well, what's the most persecuted group in the world right now? Christians.
Yeah, and it's
And it
not.
has been for a long
I think
time.
so. And it's really funny getting back to Trudeau saying these things about the people, because a lot of the people who are not getting vaccinated happen to be ethnic minorities that are leery about things and don't trust the government. So he's calling everybody racists and misogynists. Meanwhile, like,
What about the women who don't want it?
exactly, and I know a lot of women that don't. And I want to say, like, I got to give a huge shout out to Canadian women, because there are a stunning amount of strong women in this anti-vax fight. I'm telling you, I am bowled over by how tough like, they're way stronger than the men. The men are pussies compared, like, not all of them, but compared to these women, like, there are people. I go to a Bible study, and some of the women there, strong. They're like, head on, getting involved. There's a woman who does organizing here, Curry Sulier. She's a pit bull. She's fearless. And there's uh, a variety of other select or media personalities as well. But props out to them, man. Because it does make a difference. We need brave people. Not doesn't matter. Just be brave. And it's crazy times right now. So,
Well,
and
they're clearly getting ready for another leftist genocide. And for the
oh
audience who
yeah,
doesn't know, every mass genocide for the last 200-300 years was committed by the left. And even the Nazis are spun as extreme right wingers. But,
yeah,
and I recommend people look up TIK's
yeah.
videos and watch him. He exposes how the Nazis were extreme leftists.
Of course
Just
they
like
were.
just like Mao and Stalin and Lenin and Pol Pot and the rest of
I
these
don't
guys.
like what right wing collectivist organization is there? I'm
Well,
trying
and
to.
not only that, but the right wingers are all armed. And how are you going to go and commit a mass genocide against a group or that believes in self governance and the right to self defense? You know.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It truly is. So we're dealing with these people, these crazy people who are forcing you. I don't know if you saw that thing with Matt Walsh on the Dr. Phil show recently. I saw a clip on YouTube, and he was faced with. He's a writer for the Daily Wire, and he was up against two trans people. I don't know which gender they were born or which gender they want to appear as, because they dressed like women, but they had beards. So it's a very, but it it was so brilliant just to see this guy say, "What is a woman?" And they couldn't define. Oh, it's whatever anybody, that's how nebulous this is. It can't sustain itself, and all it does is just boil itself down to idiocy, and that's why we get so many dumb people in power and with ideologues. These this Lysenkoism. These people are just doubling down on their ideology. They don't care about the function they're supposed to be performing. They just care about the ideology they're promoting, and it's nuts. And with all of this full like multi-spectrum. I mean, the schools with all the critical theories being put into practice, and all the parents coming out saying, "Hey, they're teaching critical race theory." No, they are not teaching critical race theory. Just like Islam isn't teaching the Quran. That's the theory. They apply it where the rubber meets the road. They are applying the theory to the children, just like Islam applies, the Sharia to the real world. I mean, you can argue the theory all day long. That's irrelevant at this point in time. This is the practice of it. So that's what we're dealing with. And they are so ingrained. So it's good to see a pushback on this. But boy, man, I don't know, because everybody seems to be doubling down. I don't know if you've noticed that. Biden is a mess, but thank God for you guys that he's a mess, because it's so starkly obvious to everybody.
Well, and even the fake news is starting to go, what the hell did we support?
Oh God.
Okay, so I'm gonna address Joe one more time. Joe says, how were and we just explained this, and we just explained to go watch Teek's shows on Hitler and socialism, and he just put out a new one last week, TIK. All he has to do is go up in the little, he's like, I don't know who TIK is. Go up in the little search bar at the top of YouTube and type in TIK and type in Hitler socialism, and you'll get his work to pop right up. But I mean, it's that simple. But he's asking, how are Nazis leftists? I'm on the right, but I don't understand when people say that. Yes, they have socialism in their name, but their ideology is based on race, which is generally right wing. That's actually a lie. He's taking what he hears in the fake news, that the right is all about race and Christians are all racist, and then he applies that to anything without looking at it, when I just referred him to that information. And Teek's video last week breaks this down clearly.
Well, I received the recipient of a Facebook timeout for posting a video of George Bernard Shaw, famous Fabian socialist, the originators of the Labour Party, I believe, and like a whole host of other horrible things in England. And he praising. There's a young man in Germany. Oh, he's a, and it wasn't until they realized my background just popped on me. That's okay. It was shiny. I put up a little thing here. Anyway, he was praising this guy until he realized that they were killing Jews. And it was a racial thing. And it could have been any race rather than people that were non-productive, the undesirables. They have no problem killing people. Like these, it's the same thing. So yeah, socialism is socialism is socialism is socialism. And just because they have the name socialism, name a right-wing group that was ever socialist. I mean, it's like a contradiction. I don't understand how that works. It doesn't jive for me. If someone can point it out, man, I'm happy to change my position.
You had your Italians that were international socialists. You had your
right.
Russians. You had your Russian Soviets that were class socialists, and then you had your Nazis or the National Socialist German Workers' Party that wanted to put their own people first. But yet, when you study Hitler's Nazism, they had a huge faction were Islamic, like absolutely enormous, like the Bosnian Handjar, etc. And, but this is all different forms of Marxism. Marxism is responsible for nearly all of the genocides for the last 200 to 300 years. In my estimation, 148 to 202 million from 1900 to 1990 alone. And again, Pol Pot, add them all in there,
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. This National Socialist German Workers' Party, but they're right wing. Okay.
Oh, and you look at Snopes or any of these idiotic things, and they'll write these ridiculous spin pieces where they omit all of the facts to try and promote that they were right wing. But because when you understand, and I'm going to post another video here for Joe, and for the rest of the audience here. This one is a 4-hour breakdown of Hitler's socialism, and it's called Hitler's Socialism, Destroying the Denialist Counter-Arguments. And I recommend, people watch that as well. It's excellent. He's like me. He shows all of the primary citations on screen, so anybody can follow along. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So I laughing my A off is saying, isn't the left-right dichotomy a little quaint by now? It's pretty obvious that there are forces at work behind the world. So the whole left-right issue comes from the Bible. First of all, goats to the left, sheep to the right. Those who want to follow truth.
Yep.
Oh, my power just cut out. Hold on a second.
You're still going, though, so I can see
all right. Well, that's good. My UPS kicked on. It took a minute for my monitors to come back up. But it's based on goats to the left, sheep to the right. And that's logos to the right, or, the followers of truth to the right, and goats, Baphomet, Satan, the unruly, to the left. That's the origins of it. And, so they are... it's like left wing, right wing, same bird. Okay, well, is there not difference between hot and cold water, or up and down, or these types of things?
And isn't the word sinister derived from the left? Isn't it isn't the definition of the left, or something to the left side, or something like that? If that's my understanding, I'm pretty sure that's the case. No, I find it to be it's an ideological difference, and so they don't jive. It's water, and oil. It's good and evil.
Well,
and
what do you say to people, Chris, who confuse Nazi leftist National Socialism with capitalism? I mean,
yeah.
And Hitler even wrote against capitalism. He said it was a Jewish conspiracy.
Yes.
So what do you explain to people, that are caught up in that false belief that if the Nazis put Germans first, even though they were socialist leftists, Socialist Workers' Party, it's like left. If Trump says put our country first, all the left can come up with is nationalism, and so
Right.
that's their trigger, even though it's okay, globalism, new world order.
Yeah. Pay for abortions in Pakistan. Yeah, exactly. No, it's ridiculous. And the Nazi Party, my understanding, came from the Fool Society,
Right.
and that was founded by
Baron von
certain,
Sabotendorf,
yeah, certain
who
Baron
was
Rudolph von
a
Bottendorf. Oh,
Baron,
he was a Freemason, wasn't he? And was
and
a
what else?
Sufi,
He was a
wasn't he?
Freemason and a Muslim.
Yes, and he was a Sufi, or he was inducted or brought into the initiated into the Freemasonry. Yeah, so it's interesting the ties, but no. The right wing, they're conservative and they're racist. Oh, they're racist. It's such a
And that
ridiculous.
it's got to be true because they heard it on TV.
Oh, for sure.
They don't
And
read the Bible and see what it actually teaches. They heard it on TV and they know.
yeah, it's very sad. I find it very sad, but it does, to me. It just gets reaffirmed over and over that this does boil down to good and evil. It boils down to logos versus hidden knowledge, occulted knowledge, gnosis, where you have your mystery schools and you have to earn your Scientologies and all your different words. Because the Bible, they tell you, it's here, it's right in here. Just read it and you'll, and it is about being adhering and just being having an allegiance to reality and to truth and just accepting, okay, this is the truth of it, as opposed to, I just want to be a girl. I just really want to be a girl. And I'm going to close my eyes and everybody else has to call me one, or else I'm going to lose my brain and I'm going to start screaming racist, homophobe. That's like, it's emotionally, mentally weak individuals.
Yeah, well, right. But you got to be careful because somebody will take that little quick clip of what you just said and be like, I want to be a girl.
No, that's okay. And I'm okay with it. I'll go with it because if I benefit in any way, shape, or form, I already identify as immune to COVID. I put my pronouns as me, mine. So if I hear me or mine anywhere, I'm like yes. So I can be annoying. You can turn this stuff around, and I do think that mockery and laughter is like one of the only things we really have. One of the best tools to have just to kind of navigate through this idiocy, because people are doubling down on this stupidity. It's ridiculous. As other people are lightening up, Canada seems to be clamping down. Other places seem to be clamping down. It's like, man, are they knee deep in this? Can they not turn around? Are they just too far into the agenda now that they have to just knuckle down and keep going? I'm stymied 2 years after the fact. It just blows my mind that, and the wokeness of it all, and the insanity. Now, I don't know if you heard, there's I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's a rumor or the story about a semi-hauling CDC monkeys got in an accident in Pennsylvania or something like that, and now they're monitoring the residents of that region. So who knows what variant's going to pop out now? And that glows in the dark as far as I'm concerned, if that's true. I saw a video, somebody was talking about it, and I thought, oh my God, that's ridiculous. There's a news report talking about 100 monkeys that were going to some quarantine facility. I'm like, oh geez, isn't that just the way it goes? Crazy times. It's Wag the Dog. That's what it is. I don't know if you've seen that film, but that's like true.
Well, and it's all about spinning the war in Yugoslavia and Bosnia. And when I was, there, it was like, yeah, because I lived there with my ex-wife's family in Belgrade during the war. And I would sit there watching Sky News, BBC, CNN. The Serbs are running down the street, killing people in the streets left and right. And I'd go outside and,
yeah,
like what? And that whole thing where they had the Serb concentration camp was exposed as a fraud. And this woman had paid people to stand behind a fence while she took photos. But she forgot there was a photographer behind her taking photos of her taking photos.
Yeah, that's the way it is anymore. It's just it's so superficial, and I think that's all people really want. It's like the camera op, and there's too much too many cell phones. There's too many things around now to be able to get away with those types of things. And yeah, like with Biden, poor Biden. I mean, I don't know, I kind of feel bad for him. I don't, but I do, because it's just sad to watch that guy, stumbling and bumbling, and it's just disheartening. And all I can think of is China and Russia and all these other people just laughing their asses off.
Oh, they got to
You know,
be, and they're like, they're strategizing their total takeover of the
yeah,
West,
yeah, it's pretty
And
pathetic.
right
It's
now,
pretty bad.
well, no, I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah, that's all good. That's all good.
It's
So
like we'd
pretty
probably be
funny.
better off than with this, clown. But it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's crazy though.
people have to find critical thinking, find the
Yep,
trivia method, and learn
it's
how to think, learn how to spot logical fallacies, learn to know when you're being lied to, learn that when there's a contradiction, it's always a lie or an error, and that
right.
there are no contradictions in nature. God cannot lie, Titus 1:2. And, once you understand that, you can begin to unravel not only the lies in your own head, but the lies in any information coming in through your five senses.
And I think one element, I think it all goes together, but one thing that I found is that it builds up your internal fortitude to a point where you can withstand a lot. You sit there and you think, and you can process information, and a little bit quicker without being in a panic mode. You
Well,
can
and
take that breath.
you can process information about 2/3 faster than the average
Yeah,
person.
yeah, because you kind of you discern, like once you identify certain things, you can just kind of
It's like,
discard them.
oh, I can see their agenda and how they're
Yes,
intentionally
exactly.
misleading me. And then it's like, okay, what are they covering up? Or, what is this limited hangout? Et cetera. Just like what I did in my Spies in Academic Clothing article, for
Yeah,
instance, and how I lay out that whole agenda. But you can go through, and once you start seeing the patterns in things, you can see what's going on. I've, over the last 12 years, I've basically just, I see patterns. And that's how I'm able to go out and identify certain issues and behaviors. And it doesn't take rocket science to figure out that their promotion of all of this moral relativism and sexual
well, oh
LGBTQ, et
boy.
cetera, is eugenics. The whole gig, and I exposed the Jaffa memo on the show years ago, but the whole gig is soft kill eugenics. You had hard kill eugenics of the left in the past, which was throw people in a ditch and mass murder them. And today, you had your Fabian socialists like Huxley and these guys.
Hmm.
They saw the atrocities of their socialist Marxist beliefs play out in World War II, and then they thought, and they created think tanks to come up with softer ways. And
Yes.
what I'm getting at is the goal. They realized they could get people to kill off their own families. And that is what I call soft kill eugenics. And so if you can get someone to take out themselves and their own family history forever, for all eternity, then you've succeeded. And it doesn't matter if they've done it through drugs and a heroin overdose or
Yep.
abortion or, raves and partying and extended adolescence and feminism, whatever the case may be, all of that stuff takes them out, which is actually good for, in the long term, for the more conservative types, because the left generally
Breeds
takes
themselves.
takes themselves out of the gene pool because they're
Right.
not. Yeah, I did say abortion, but they're going to take themselves out of the gene pool, and they think that they're in a moral superiority evolutionary position, but they don't understand that if they don't reproduce, and no offense to anybody who doesn't have children, but it's going to end that aspect of the gene pool, and we can't, we that is the lead in that they use against us, so you get people caught up in careers and whatever the case may be,
Oh yeah.
chasing that corporate job or whatever, and that's all in the Jaffa memo. It's all there. In fact, while you're talking, I'm going to pull that memo up so people can see it, and then they can pause the screen while they're watching and look at it, because it's all right there in
Yeah.
1969.
Yeah, that's not at all surprising. And I often wonder, this is another thing, and I've been thinking of this because for a while I've been tracking in my own database, brain database, different types of elements of social engineering, and that goes with movies, directors, and things like that. And pornography is something that I've kept an eye on. And one thing that I found to be really shocking, although I imagine it's always existed, it's my understanding it always has, but over the last, let's say maybe 5, maybe 6, 7 years, just a ramp up of incest-based pornography. Step this, step that. This person, my perv mom, my horny dad, my this or that. Right. So all of these things that are breaking down barriers, right? Degradation of the family. And now they lock us down for 2 years. Nobody has any social lives, and they're locked in in these houses with their families. And I'm wondering if that wasn't by design. Just a thought off the top of my head, but it's one of those things that I wonder, because I wouldn't put it past these individuals. I find it that these social engineers, they work very diligently to try to use ourselves against us and try to steer these things. They introduce these things in all the different types of media, and you've exposed so much of this stuff with Hans and with a host of your other, through music or through a variety of other methods, trance and raves and things like that. It just slowly eroding away these barriers and these morals.
The excuse of these CIA propagandists and their faking of modern art, their promotion of psychedelics through
Yep.
MK Ultra and the whole thing, was they wanted to attack. This is their excuse. It could be pure hyperbole, and it's basically, it's at its surface, it's just stupid thinking all the way through. But they wanted to prove how free the West is.
That's the claim, right? It's
right?
ridiculous.
Because the Soviet Union was too rigid. So they want to, hey, Giuseppe, thanks for the donation. And by the way, thanks, Boru and Matthew, for the donations, too. But they want, the Soviets were too rigid. And so they at the CIA wanted to create an everything goes freedom to just show how free the West is. So then we ended up with Duchamp signing toilets and menstrual blood on canvas and people wiping out on drugs and fornicating in ditches and this and the whole every type of trans whatever thing goes. This was what they promoted, but when you look at Aldous Huxley's own work, it's the fall. And it's the final revolution. And, when you look at Julian Huxley's work, he was the eugenicist.
Yes.
And so then you have soft kill eugenics, and you have all of this stuff coming in that has one goal. It undermines our own society and our own culture. So you have to call BS on this whole CIA agenda of the ultimate freedom. But this is what the left thinks freedom is about now.
Right.
They can't see.
Instead of I mean, the Soviets, they were classical, right? So your musicians would be classical musicians, and the artists they would have to paint or something, right? But no, we're going to come along and you can puke on this canvas, and guess what? It's art. It's like, hey, you can be an artist too, but it just removes the skill required, and it just blows my mind that here's three stripes on a canvas. Canadian
right. Well, or classical music to trance or hypnosis music, right?
Yeah.
You have this high art that required all of this skill in an orchestra.
Yeah.
Versus a guy behind a stand with a record.
Exactly.
And, there's I mean, it requires some talent to do that, but
Oh yeah, no doubt.
it's not to the level of Bach or Mozart or something,
No, not nearly. And it doesn't require the amount of cooperation. You're not getting the individual styles and the personality of all those different individuals. You have a computer that's going to regurgitate the same thing over and over. And that,
And
again,
and the
it is what
agenda's in
it
the
is.
name. It's trance, it's hypnosis.
Yes, it is. And it's performing a function, right? And that's really what everything comes down to, is what is the function being performed here? What is the desired result that I don't understand the logic of so many things. It just seems so bizarre to me that that people with straight faces would try to sell so much of the idiocy that we're being fed in lockstep. You turn on any news station, is I watch them on YouTube. I just flip by and I'm just laughing. I mean, they're all the same, and defeigned outrage. The moral superiority is just so ridiculous. It's lost its any appeal I think it had. I don't know. Very sad, but perhaps there's still people buying this. I don't know, but it's a clown world we live in, Jan.
Isn't it amazing how, when did I start? Okay, so I bought into it when I launched the show, October 2008. By early 2010, I'm already starting to question the whole narrative. 2011 and 12, and I'm already putting some stuff out there questioning it. 2011, I'm interviewing Harriman, questioning the whole quantum physics nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I'm already on to that whole thing, right?
Right.
And
I recall that.
Yeah, and get the trivium in 2009, and I start, all of a sudden the whole psychedelic agenda starts falling apart. But so you think back, so we're in season 14 now. You've been helping me for like 8-10 years now. And isn't it amazing, like, how much they've had to throttle my work and shadow ban me? Because if this stuff went viral a decade ago, could you imagine where we'd be today compared to, these crackpots that promote these very same agendas?
I work in an industrial field. I work at a machine shop, and a lot of the times I'm out, I have to go out and pick up equipment and things like that. And so I'll make deliveries and run around. And I was at a shop last week, in fact, and this is the funniest thing. And I bumped into a guy that I knew many years ago, and he just came over and says, "You were right. You were right. We thought you were crazy, and you were dead on right. And how do you feel?" I'm like, "I don't feel great, that's for sure." And it wasn't that I was right. It's just some people got their head in the sand, right? But where's your butt when your head's in the sand? It's up in the air, and so maybe that's not the place you want to have it. So I honestly think that it's just being observant and being, not being gullible. These people, I don't think a sane individual wants to go into politics. I don't think a sane individual wants to have that responsibility. I think you're only dealing with psychopaths at this point in time. These gravitate to these positions, and we need to have all these checks and balances to keep them from ruining. And I think it's a desire for their own personal greed. I don't think AOC is a true ideologue. I think she's using this ideology to promote herself as a mechanism. However, I do think there are other people that are true ideologues, that are gone. But yeah, so it's you disingenuous woke, having the courage, number one, to not buy into it, not go along with it, not capitulate. You cannot capitulate to this. You cannot apologize. If you made a joke about something and you're going to be called out, like, I know people that made a joke, not even remotely offensive, and were called into a manager's office, and somebody had complained about it, even when just at a break time. Like, it's gotten to the point right now where we have emotionally weak, very weak people, intellectually weak, fall for anything. They're looking for a reason. Everyone wants to be a victim.
Yep.
I'm so shocked that that appeals to anybody. They think, it's a good thing. I'm such a victim, and can I have a popsicle? Like,
Could you imagine
I understand this. It's so infuriating. It's like,
hey,
and these people, most of them aren't even victims. I mean, like, there are victims. Let's feel bad for them. These people are privileged by all belief. It's insane to me. It blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, as Earl Lee just said, fragile people, exactly. They're very weak, and they think it's all based on moral superiority. And
that's what our system produces.
And Boru just donated $10 in Dill's name. Thank you both guys. That was awesome of you, Boru. And Dell, he's been in the chat lately. He wasn't in the chat much, before, but I've been watching him just suck up information like a sponge as of late, So good on you, brother.
Yeah. It's not, it's only going to benefit yourself, because as you learn, you learn to discern for yourself. Like, I don't lean on you. I'm not like, oh, what's Jan think about this
exactly
today?
Oh my God, thank you for bringing that up.
Like, people are like, well, you're just a follower. Yeah. I've been following your work for a long time, and I've seen you go from here. Like, I've started with the Trivium, and you were like, when I get there at the Trivium, you have all this stuff about, mushrooms and this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, I've had experiences with them, but I'm not super knowledgeable. And then as it progresses, I see this, like, you're following this R. Gordon Wasson thing about the sacred mushroom. Oh, okay, cool. I'm on board. I'm listening to this. And then as it goes, like, you're like finding out more information. And as that information comes along, you're processing it, and you're going, oh, you're not doubling down on your old stance. Like, oh, well, I can't deviate from this. No, you're like, okay, no, hang on. There's something else. Digging. How many years did you dig into Wasson? Like, oh my God. Seriously, where's the shovel? How many years did you go? How many different university times did you go down? Like, look at that. Yeah.
I spent like 3 weeks just to Princeton. And folks, and I got into an argument yesterday with Robert Forty, and this is why this stuff is even out. And he was trying to tell me that Joe, of all people, provided me the documentation that showed that Wasson was CIA. Joe never provided one single iota of forensic documentation ever. Joe was a big coattail rider and wanted to attach my valid work on MKUltra to his whole Caesar's thesis so that he could attack Christianity. But, this is just some of the documentation that I got on Wasson. Yeah. That's just a wee little bit. There's CIA FOIA requests, Columbia, Dartmouth, Yale, FBI, Hoover Institute, Princeton CFR Archives, U.S. Library of Congress, Yale, University of California, Santa Barbara, etc. And then on the computer here, I've got tons more of this stuff.
Right. So you're on this trail, you're following this thing, you're defending one position, and as you realize, you start digging, and as you're digging, you're providing all of your citations, which I appreciate. It's not like, hey, take my word for it. You're like, look what I found. Hey, look what I found. And if somebody doesn't want to look at it, then you can lead a horse.
And Jan sold out because he's showing us primary documents on screen, and he's no longer for psychedelics, right? Yeah, well, exactly. and it's like, really? So because I exposed that Wasson was CIA and that the whole of the psychedelic revolution...
Very clever the way you did it too, right? Because of all of the redactions, and you were able to triangulate with, I believe it was an address or something.
Well, no,
like that.
So there was that, but in where was it? In Wasson's personal letters that I got from Princeton or Yale, I think. Wasson had written a letter. Okay, so you have like 1956, I think, and he's talking about going down to Huautla de Jimenez, and there's this CIA file about MKUltra Subproject 58 that was all redacted. 58. So I go to a letter that's like 2 or 3 weeks before that CIA file, and I find a letter in Wasson stuff from just before then, and I just filled in the blanks from Wasson's own letter. I'm going to, it was blanked out, Europe. I'm planning a blank fourth trip to, or fifth, whatever it was, to Huautla de Jimenez. I'm recruiting Professor blank Roger Heim from the National National Library at Paris or whatever. Fill that in. And it was just like, all of this stuff was right there in his letters, which, and then I went into the CIA file, and Steve and these clowns all say that I plagiarized it from Colin Ross. All Colin Ross did was tell me that he found the connection in John D. Mark's book, The Search for the Manchurian Candidate. I got the document, I got the letters, I went through and I filled in as many of the blanks as I could. Nobody else did that,
I mean, the thing is that you didn't suppress the information. You didn't hide it because it was going against what you were like previously, that what you were like, hey man, this is like, or you kept going with it. And as you go, even with all of the work you had done with like entheogens and stuff, you altered your course, man. And you saw it for what it was. And you're like, okay, I understand. Like I've understood it over here, this perspective. Now I see it from here, and now I have a clear understanding of what I'm dealing with here. And so with the mushrooms and with the Florentine Codex and the Aztecs and all of that, like it's almost like a full story, that following this trail. And as Joe Rogan said, you're probably one of the foremost experts on it. So it's I'm glad to see that it's been fruitful for you, because you've uncovered quite a bit. And then all the other deviations that have gone off, but that being the main core that I noticed in your work that drove books and stuff. So that was very impressive to watch, and just to be a part of it and watch the courses change, but it wasn't, there's no shame in that. Like there's no shame at all.
And that's what they'll try to say is like, well, you changed your mind. How dare you? And it's like, yeah, that's because I had the intellectual honesty to follow, to make truth the ultimate goal, and not my agenda or my beliefs of, oh, well, psychedelics are awesome or psilocybe mushrooms are awesome. And then it's like, and there's the Florentine Codex right there on the bookshelf. You crack that thing open and it's like, wait a second, how come Wasson and John Allen and Robert Forty and anybody else, Carl Ruck, anybody else who promotes this stuff, how come they don't talk about the Aztecs and the death cults? Why is that? Why did I have to go in there and expose it as a death cult? And I'm still working on, I promise people I'll get that article done. And Hans just read that article this week, and he was watching Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, and he went, boom! Yeah, so he was frantically calling me at like 2:00 in the morning his time, and I was just like, Hans, what are you doing still awake? He's like, so dude, I've been watching Apocalypto and Mel Gibson's work. I've been blown away. And he's like, it's all in here. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I know. And I told him, yeah, I've been exposing the Aztecs, and I think for Apocalypto it was the Maya, but I've been exposing the Aztecs as the blueprint, or part of the blueprint for MK Ultra for a number of years now. Yeah.
And it seems like, I see advertisements on Facebook for mushrooms, it's crazy where they're just mainstreaming these types of things now. And it's only a matter of time, right? Because
hypersuggestibility and schizophrenia, schizophrenia.
And isn't that it, right? It's manufacturing it, and it's crazy. It's crazy. But I don't know. It's crazy. I'm hoping that you're in the Caliphate of California, and I am up here in Canada, and I don't know. It's a race to see who's going to get woker, because you got a pretty woke governor there. That guy is something else, man. But the mayor of San Francisco looks like she's getting fed up with all the crime. And I was going to ask you, have you recently looted up to
$1,000? Dude, it's my, it's my alliance with Logos. It makes it really tough. But I sit there and it's like, is that with or without tax? You know? And then it's like, that's well, so funny. So then it's like $900 and you know, 900
That's
and
funny.
what would it be, $914 or something like
Yeah.
that.
Better
You know,
make sure the government gets their money out of it
right.
because
Well,
it's
because
very
you gotta make sure that it's not, $1,000 and a penny or something like that. But
that's so funny, man.
but
Dude,
yeah, it's like all of the moral relativism stuff is starting to bite them in the rear end.
yeah, I mean, you can only do this for so long, and I think ultimately people are starting to get. I think it's affecting folks where they're looking at their lives. The cost of gas is insane. The cost of groceries, the fact that we're having supply chain issues, and people looking at these things, but all their bills are going up, and they're looking at these leaders and they're worried about passing laws about offending people, and it's like what is up with that? Like, to me, that's just so the
It's
biggest,
stupid.
you offended somebody. It's like, so what? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's
Let's go
people
back to
dying.
just freedom of speech, and if
Yeah,
somebody's
well,
offended, they can go pout and cry and grow a
it's just
pair.
so crazy. Anyway, I've just been
So
just keeping my head down.
are you woke enough to be a Canadian, Chris?
I don't think so. I'm trying to. Honestly, I'm familiar with it
You're
to
on
the
a
point.
woke diet,
Yeah, when people talk to me about this stuff, I'll just like I'll cite things. I'll say, "Well, that sounds very Marcusian of you. How isn't that
and
wonderful?"
they're just like, huh? You
Because
know,
it does. Like these types of ideas are just so contradictory. It's just I can't even entertain it, and it's funny because I'm going to segue into this really briefly. I'm working really hard lately on this little project. It's going to be hilarious, I think. Hopefully by the end of February, it's going to be done. It's a comic book, first time I've ever,
oh yeah,
mid
I
50s
meant to bring that up. Thanks for bringing it up.
so I'm drawing a comic book about halfway
Do you want
through
to
right.
share some?
I can't, man. I want
Okay.
to, but there's too many inside jokes that I don't want to wreck anything because
All
it's
right, all
gonna be
right.
pretty funny. But the comic series is called Woke Busters, and it's kind of in line with what the title of the show is. And I have about 12 pages drawn. I got another 12 to go, and I'm hoping again doing it after work and stuff. But it's really coming from my friend Trevor, who I used to play in a band with. He's since moved away. He lives up in Alberta, but we communicate all the time, and we kind of got this idea, and we were laughing our butts off, and we thought it was hilarious. And so it's really ballooned into something. We've got a whole series, so the first issue should be coming out at the end of February, maybe early March. I'll let you know, and maybe we can post something about it. But yeah, that's my reaction, because I have no other means of expression right now. It's so to especially now with all the lockdowns and all the different restrictions and stuff. It's so hard, to be creative about things. Every band I've been associated with is pretty much just come to a screeching halt, and there's no budget for film and for so if you want to tell a story, this seemed like it was funny, and these caricatures have been around for a long time. So we just kind of came up with this really funny story. I think it is, and I think you guys will like it. And so that's what's keeping me kind of sane right now. But that's just what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes you want to do something, you just have to learn it. I'm not a great artist, but I'm drawing this book, and it's fun, man. I'm having a good time. It's tedious, it's driving me nuts, but it's still fun. So
I
look forward to that.
had a friend reach out to me that I hadn't heard from in 21, almost 22 years. And he's like, I've been thinking about all that stuff you used to talk about, and it's like, it's like these people coming to you and saying, "Oh, geez, you were right." And back then I still wasn't even near aware as now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
half the stuff I bought into then was this Marxist Marcusian crap then. But apparently, even 21, 22 years ago, it was enough for this person to start thinking about it all decades later and reach out and go, "Holy crap!"
Well, at least I'll give people credit for that. At least it's a realization like, oh man, you know what, maybe that, it takes, I thank God if I see that little, change, that little, what, I'm not going to be dismissive of that idea anymore. Or maybe I'm going to entertain that, or maybe I want to inquire because things are not jiving. Like if you don't feel like things are jiving right now, it's because they're not jiving. There's so many lies and gaslighting and manipulation and just lockstep argumentum ad nauseum, same thing over and over. How many of these people said, you get this, you won't get this, and that all's out the window. Project Veritas. I apologize for the I remember that last time somebody
for the what?
That for the I say that a lot.
Oh, that's I used to have a thing up here. No, and something or other.
I need to have one of those.
I probably still do. I got so fed up of trying to remind myself not to do it. I just forgot about doing it.
But yes, I do, and it's crazy. So that's if you're looking at the world and you're saying, this doesn't make sense, it's because it probably doesn't. And if you want a way of coming to some degree of certainty and being able to look at the information in an order that will lead you to a correct, with the information that you have, conclusion. Instead, so many people do what you say. They stick their logic right before their grammar, and they will say something like, well, that is the case, and like rhetoric. Well, rhetoric is,
well, it's just like that guy on Facebook. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like rhetoric. It's a word.
Well, no, and it clearly, and I very clearly even described it and linked it to him. General grammar, then Aristotelian logic, then Socratic rhetoric.
Right.
What does he do? It's all wrong because it has rhetoric.
Yeah, I mean, that's just throwing, just cutting your nose off to spite your face, and you're not doing yourself any favors by doing that. So, I just think that the trivium is, for me, it was a very good thing. I find it very logical, and it seems now, like you said before, you start to think in that process where you just go, okay, let me just look into the core elements of this before I make any harsh decisions or harsh judgments on that. But you do make a judgment, right? Judgment is not a bad thing.
Correct.
It is a good thing to
you judge in truth.
Yes, exactly.
And logos.
Exactly. And so as long as you're breathing, as long as the wheels are turning in your brain, you can improve your ability, you can improve your internal fortitude, be able to process that information. And one thing about Jordan Peterson, I got to give him credit. He's been in the hot seat so many times, and he's a very good thinker and he's a very good speaker. And you see him sometimes on the spot, and he takes whatever time he thinks he needs before he answers. He doesn't appear to feel any pressure to have to come up with something right away. Oh my God, they think I'm stupid, I'm not coming. He just takes his time and just thinks about it, and then he'll say something. And we got to remember to do that. You don't always have to react. Just think about things, process it, see what the crux of the question is, or see what the crux of the argument is. Where are they going with this? What is the intention? How is it worded? So many things, if all voluntary human movement is purposeful, so it seeks to achieve an end goal. If somebody says something to you in a certain way, it's a backhanded compliment. What would motivate that? You can always, they say, someone said about, you can't know what's in someone's mind. I said, no, but you can get an idea by their behavior, by their actions. You can understand they have an end goal. Nobody does something for nothing, so you're trying to achieve something.
Isn't that funny? Like, I'll get on Facebook so often, like, somebody will state a bunch of their opinions, and then I'll point out what they believe, and then they'll say, you don't know me, how do you know what I believe? And it's like, I'll sit there and I'll quote them, and I'll say, you just posted it right here. And it's like, hello? Isn't this what you believe? truth doesn't exist, that the reality is a projection, there is no logos, there is no blah, 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 and then it's like you cannot have a moral, reasonable conversation with them because, and I was just showing on screen here, the KJV with Strong's Concordance, so I was highlighting the word, which is logos, and we come down here by implication a topic, also reasoning, mental faculty, or what did you just say, Chris? Motive, by extension, a computation, specifically the divine expression that is Christ, account, cause, communication, etc. And then going down, question, reason, reckon, etc. And thank you, Steve, so much. But logos is where we get the word logic from. But clearly right here it tells us that the word logos is reasoning. So why is the left so against reasoning and mental faculty?
It's racist.
Well, it's racist. And then they took out like 3rd and 4th Maccabees out of the Bible, which actually goes into logic. So why did they remove 4th Maccabees from the Old Testament? And it's got this whole thing in here breaking down and explaining logic. Why was that? And so, and then when you get, and I forget the passage off the top of my head in Ephesians about, fighting off the fiery darts of the wicked. And, when you go back and you look, he's holding up the shield of the Holy Trinity, which is the shield of the trivium. And when you get it, oh, you're fighting off the fiery darts of the wicked. Oh.
Exactly. And it is so obviously true when you make that connection. It's like, it is a martial art, a self-defense mechanism. It's for your intellectual self-defense. It is a way of not accepting someone else's lie. You as a Christian, I have to stay true I have to be true to reality. And when people start feeding me BS, what do? Right? Do I just capitulate and go along and deny?
Okay. And you just shake your head along like, no. I call it out,
Yeah, well, you almost have to, right?
And then they give you dirty looks and whatnot, but it's like, they might hate you for today, tomorrow, 3 months, but maybe 6 months from now, that little light's going to come on and they're going to go, wow, that guy Chris, he said that,
I've had people that have unfriended me that, for the last couple of years over BLM, over this and that, because I said, stop infantilizing these individuals. They're your equals. Why are you going around saying, I have to come up? No. Hey, like, you're either equal or you're not. And if anybody who's born on this planet has a right to be here, nobody has a right to tell them they don't. And if you're equals, then you know what? Allow these people. Don't set up, lower the bar. They can meet any challenge you can meet. They are capable. Well, no, we have to. Oh, you
have to coddle them and all of this stuff.
Oh, you poor little underprivileged person. No, we're just going to lower the bar for you because you can't achieve the things that all regular people can do. And
wow, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's sad. Like, that's what affirmative action is.
Yeah.
It's sickening to me because I'm trying to make the point. You're robbing these people of their agency. You're robbing them of their dignity. Okay, the child, the young black child who is like a math whiz, and he's meant to do this gig. He's a genius at it. He comes out of school. He's got the best grades. He obviously gets the gig, and he gets first day of work, and he shows up, and everyone, diversity hire. Like,
wow.
You know what I mean? You earned your spot. Yeah. You earned your spot, and you don't even get the dignity.
Well, and he might not even get the job because they're gonna diversity hire someone else instead of him, because because it's not going to be a merit hire.
Right. Well, it's so sad to me that we are we're dumping to the bottom. We're lowering to the lowest common denominator. We have to appease to that, yet we are allowing the top to just go. And that's what we want. We want the top. We want those are the most productive people. They are the ones with the best ideas. We want those people who to gravitate to certain things, to fly, yes, go and take us with you. But people robbing them. And then also lowering the bar for responsibility for things, for committing crimes. Oh, it's just,
Well, they're victims. They're victims of everybody else. That's why they're criminals. Come on.
I mean, what happened to the guy who ran through the parade in Wisconsin? Like, where did that story go? The guy drives through a parade and kills a bunch of people. Now we don't even know, never hear about this cat anymore. No, it's definitely not racially motivated, not terrorism. No, that's not terrorism. But the other kid, the kid who defended himself clearly on videotape
from a mob, Kyle Rittenhouse,
he's a white supremacist.
Right. Yeah, even though he was there performing first aid on anybody and everybody who wanted it, and defending private property,
out the window.
But you know what? And they've totally buried that story too. You don't hear the left talking about that at all because they lost the court case so astoundingly.
Yeah. So we have these pockets of these sinkholes in the news where there's a popular story. Let's get rid of that. Hey, we'll talk to you about this and white supremacy, and just the biggest problem they have in the States is white supremacy. And I'm in my mid 50s, and I can honestly say I don't know any white supremacists. I don't know any racists.
Oh, but you're a Christian, so therefore
I know I must be a racist. I gotta tell you. Like, I don't know anybody who's like, you know what? I was born this color and I was born this ethnicity, and that makes me better than everybody else.
I didn't even know what racism was until somebody told me when I was like 18 or 19.
It's weird. When I was a child, there used to be this commercial with his grandfather on a boat fishing with his grandson, and the grandson's like, "Grandpa, what's prejudice?" Billy says, "I'm prejudiced." And he's like, "Oh, it means if you treat people differently because of their race or their religion." "Who's Jimmy?" And he's like, "Well, he's my Jewish friend." He's like, "Well, you see, you are racist because if you weren't racist, he would just be your friend and not your Jewish friend." So that's, as a child, I remember that. And now that's completely flipped on the other side. Now it's like you have to identify everybody by their races. Everybody is identified by their individual groups and
their gender, their made up gender, their psychopathy, their schizophrenia, whatever the case may be.
We allow their
pronoun.
This ideology, this way of thought, and the fear that comes with it, which I think is like, that's the thing that stinks the most, is the fear. Like, it just reeks of people afraid of being canceled, afraid of, it's just sickening.
Well,
but you have like cops that are like allowing children to be raped in England for decades because they don't want to appear as racist. You have all these other crimes, and then what about all the hoax hate crimes? All these hoax hate crimes all over the place. Hoax rapes, hoax, hate.
There's been multiple cases of people on college campuses painting swastikas and then getting caught later on that it was them doing their own hate crime, just like,
Jesse Smollett.
Just like Juicy Smollett. Yeah.
That's just, it just blows my mind again. Hate to use that phrase over and over again. I'm just as shocked as I was last time. But that is the thing. It's like they know shame.
But the left fall for it each and every time as the group think. They fall for it each and every time, and then it gets debunked, and then it gets debunked, and then it gets debunked, and then it gets debunked.
James O'Keefe nailed it when he said, when he went through the arrest with the FBI, he said, "I understand now. It is the process that is a punishment. They will make the accusation, they will make the claim, and they'll retract it weeks down the road." But the left, I mean, how many ridiculous claims were made in the media about Trump that they ran with, and there's still people to this day
that repeat it,
that are still saying it. Like, there's some woman wrote a thing about the Kyle Rittenhouse case and said he shot 3 black guys. I mean, these people they'll just keep. That's the intellectual dishonesty. That is the opposite of you. Someone who is going to say, well, no, this is the information. Okay, we're going to suppress that because it's going to go against the narrative that we
Yep.
have to push. Like you are like, oh, well, this is the
Well,
truth. I guess we have
and
to go
that's
with it.
just that's the crux of it right there with the left as a whole is they have to base their narrative on lies, misinformation, spin, etc. And that
Yeah,
exposes the whole agenda. And it's not to say that there aren't so-called right-wingers that don't do this stuff.
sure.
There are, but
People are people, right?
the right is supposed to be based on righteous, correct behavior
Right.
by
Yes.
default. Dell is asking, did you hear about the scientists creating the synthetic wombs? Lord Birkenhead, over 100 years ago, explained this in his Cosmopolitan article. Well, that's the whole foundation of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and creating his alpha, beta, delta, epsilon categories of stupid slaves, So, yeah, I mean, the whole goal of the left is to get rid of the family. They see the
Yeah.
family as a threat and promoting tyranny and racism, and we have to get rid of parents, and the government is going to do a great job because the government has such a fantastic history throughout time of doing the right thing. You
And
know,
and and you know, another
I
stymieing
laugh my
factor.
ass off. Says synthetic wombs inside transgenic pigs.
I'll tell you, then you have all of these major corporations, yeah, even like Adobe, I believe, and Nike, and all these massive corporations giving millions of dollars to BLM, who actually state that they want to, eliminate capitalism. So
Yeah,
they're giving their opponents lots of money so they can go buy multiple homes, be real good Marxists that way when you go and buy a bunch of homes and don't give them out to the
there's
poor
a
people.
there's a really good film on. Let me see if it's in the database here. On Nelson Mandela. It's probably on my other computer. I'll have to.
Oh, is that the one that Lloyd shared?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, that about the South African.
Yeah,
Oh boy, yeah, that
oh boy,
something
that was
else.
just that destroyed the whole
Yeah,
Nelson Mandela
no,
narrative and everything.
I was,
He was a
yeah,
mass
not,
murderer that they
yes,
propped up as a
absolutely,
hero.
yes. Well, isn't that the way they do that? They celebrate these people who are just not. They, it is a complete fiction, and the way that they do it is the emperor has new clothes, right? Walking around naked, and everybody, oh, you have such a wonderful gown on. Yeah, it's despicable. It really is. He was a terrorist. He was imprisoned for
Well,
terrorist
and he
activity.
mass murdered
Yeah,
or ordered the murder of hundreds, probably thousands
and the
of
way
people.
that they did that with like the tires and such was just brutal,
Oh
man.
yeah, they would. For those of you who don't know, he would have them. They call it a necklace or whatever. They would put a
Yeah,
tire around you, fill it with gasoline, and light you on fire, and that was Nelson Mandela's preferred way of execution.
unreal.
But boy, the I think it's on the other computer and it's off the network right now, so I can't pull it up. But if we, I'll have to shoot. What's the name of it? Do you remember?
No, I don't. But it was about the party that brought about the
Yeah.
destabilization in South Africa, and very, yeah, it's textbook. You see that happening everywhere, and you see it happening here. You see it happening in other countries, and they're really trying to destabilize things and get us into a really bad state. And this whole build back better idea is just, I mean, these people are so absolutely incompetent that it's even worrying. Like if they were very competent, maybe I would think, oh, maybe I'll go along. Maybe I'll go along with it, and just sit back and have them like Uber a meal over every few hours. But they're so incompetent. I just don't have any faith whatsoever in their abilities to be um, efficient in any way, shape, or form. All they do is just siphon resources and just waste it on stupid things.
Tainted Heroes. That's what it's
Is
called.
that what it is?
Yes.
Tainted Hero? Okay,
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that.
good call. That
Yeah,
was
so everybody look up the documentary film on Nelson Mandela, Tainted Heroes, and be prepared to be shocked because that is exactly what the BLM modeled itself after.
Yep. And they're still going strong, man. Just I think they still have a lot of people still supporting them. I know a lot of people still that are with that fist. You have that commie fist going. So yeah.
It's like, really, how many millions of people have to be murdered for this fist, and you people still don't get it, you know? And again, like Tik,
Yeah.
that we talked about earlier, he's
Yep.
been trying to expose this over and over and over and over and over, and his
No.
shows do get traction.
Yeah, no,
You know?
he's I enjoy it's very deep history. He does use citations, shows in his supporting his positions. He makes solid arguments, I find, and he's very reasonable. So yeah, I highly recommend. I'm subscribed to that channel as well, and I check out. I did really I found a few of his videos very enlightening, but of course, enlightening to go into research and look up yourself, and that's one thing I like, is that I don't need to just take it from a video and it's good. I generally have an interest in looking things up. James Lindsay on his new Discourses podcast went through and read like the Repressive Tolerance by Herbert Marcuse. It was like 4-episode podcast. And for a good portion of that, I sat there and read along with it. And it's enjoyable. It's helpful. And it's good to see things with your own eyes. At least it gives you a little bit more of a explicit understanding as opposed to just, I heard it here. So
Yep.
It's always nice.
You know, I get into these conversations where I cannot get professors and academics to even look stuff up. They are so convinced that Hitler was a right-wing capitalist. You cannot put quotes and information in front of them. They will not look at it.
Yeah.
You know, and then they walk into their faculty room and it's an echo chamber of leftist lies, you know, about capitalism and about, you know, they're all pumping Marxism, and they can't even see that the Nazis were like, you know, this tiny little fragment of difference between
Again,
the Russian Marxists, you know,
exactly.
And you know,
and
Hitler,
by a fellow socialist.
Hitler, you know, Hitler and his guys even admitted that basically there was no difference between them and Marxism. You know, but they can't get it.
I had a discussion with a younger woman. She's a democratic socialist. Nice individual. I don't have an issue with her as an individual, but like she's like, no man, like they're right wing. I'm like, no, they're not. And I'm posting quotes from Hitler, and she's like, yeah, but like he was funded by like rich industrialists. And I'm like, who funded the Bolsheviks? Who funds BLM? Who funds, you know, Antifa? Like rich industrialists. I mean, what do you mean? Like, that's so funny. It's like, oh, well, just the Nazis got the. I'm sorry, am I wrong there? Wasn't Trotsky funded by American industrialists for the Bolshevik? I don't get. And also, Hitler was funded by a lot of the American industrialists as well, like Henry Ford, if I understand from and Rockefeller. I think didn't he get like the ability to process fuel or something like that? If I recall correctly. My brain's all swimming all over the place, Jan. I tell you,
Yeah, well, that's what we talked about. Just
yeah,
it was going to be the shooting the SHIT episode.
Yep, doing our woke-ins, making sure, seeing who's more, what area is more woke, California or Canada. I don't know. I think Canada's got you. I don't know.
I think Canada's got us even here, dude.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
I can't get Tainted Heroes to pop up because my computer's sucking up so much bandwidth with the with all of the shows and video.
Yeah, I imagine it.
So, and I've got like hyper fast internet too, you know. It's probably a good place to wrap it up if you want.
I would think that would be great, man. But I really appreciate you inviting me on to let me vent all my frustrations.
Well, we'll have to have you back. Maybe we'll do another show when your comic book is ready. What do you think?
Yes. Well, I think that would be great. Yeah. And I'm, like I said, I'm diligently working, so I'm putting a lot of effort into it. It'll be fun. I'll fire everyone as soon as I get it done, and then maybe we can arrange something, and it'll be online. So we'll get it out to everybody for sure. I think we might do an Indiegogo to maybe do a print run, but we'll look at that down the road. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming on, and thanks for
Yeah.
all your years of
Hey,
helping make all of the banners and images for all the episodes and everything. It's hugely appreciated.
it's an honor to do it. It truly is, and I'm happy to help. And it's always, I appreciate all the hard work you do, and yeah, keep on the fight, Jan. Keep it up.
Can you believe 4 episodes, 4 weeks in a row? That's like a first in over a year, dude.
That's a wonderful thing, though. I'm glad to see that it's ramping back up again. And I didn't see the Steve Jones episodes. I know that he's had a series, so I want to kind of catch up on all of it. But I watched the Han show, and it was a true joy. Yeah, it was a riot. He was a lot of fun, and it was very entertaining.
Oh,
and it was informative as well. So
Hans is going to be back next week, everybody.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll get on the band.
Yeah. So so Hans called me last night. He wants to come back next week. So that'll be episode number 50 with Hans.
Wow, that's great.
The first time he came on was in 2009, dude.
Wow.
That's like
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, some of my favorite episodes are with Hans, and he's got his the music, mind control, that whole series was so eye-opening, and it made so many connections for me that I was like, oh my God, like this is such a strong area, a strong force of social change and social control.
Editing that series and seeing all of the satanic stuff, it really woke me up. And I wasn't even a Christian then, but I was like, I don't need to be a Christian to see that they believe in the Satanism that they're promoting. And thank you, Niall, for the 4.5 pounds there. I really appreciate the donation there. And thanks to everybody else who supported the show tonight. Please,
thank you, folks.
Like, subscribe, share, donate to Patreon. You can get me at $ at Logos Media on Cash App, or hit the banner at the top of the logosmedia.com website. All that good stuff. Greatly appreciate your support. There's a Bitcoin donation thing there too. Chris, we'll have to have you back on soon. And
yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'll be getting the banner ready for next week and looking forward to the show. And thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for Woke Busters. It's going to be awesome. And again, thank you, Jan. It's been a great pleasure to have it.
That sounds like you could lead into like one of those superhero like Marvel comic movies or something,
I'm telling you, sir, the plans we have, it's epic. It's ridiculous. It's going to be. We have multiple issue arcs going, and we have it's going to be hilarious, man. We're looking forward to it. But thanks again. I really, truly appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to have you, man.
Likewise. Well, we can sit here and thank each other all day for helping each other out so much. So we'll stop it there. And
sounds good.
Thank you, everybody in the audience. Thank you for the support and donations. Greatly appreciate it. Please, again, contribute if you appreciate this work and the show and all we've done, and God bless, and good night.